Welcome to Catch Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modis. This podcast is about living and playing in the Florida Keys, a 125-mile-long chain of islands that runs from Key Largo all the way down to Key West. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the islands. Catch Outdoors is hosted by Spotify, also brought to you by your favorite podcast network. So kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch Outdoors is number 151. Hello all, good morning, afternoon, or evening, again, depending on when you might have tuned into the podcast. For me, it's morning. Yeah, I'm recording this on Sunday morning because we are headed to Key West shortly. So, yeah, man, it's the only 2-hour drive I don't dread. I love going down south. I love going over the bridges. I love the view from the bridges. And there's stop-off points. You know, we may have to visit the Lorelei on the way down, and who knows? Hog's Breath. Who knows? It's all fun when you're going south. It really is. But I'm recording it early for that reason. So there will be a big chunk of almost all day Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday missing before you even begin to hear this again. So I will do my best to predict the future. But I'll catch up on the Key West stuff for you later on the next podcast. So, and thank goodness, I have often mentioned the construction of the new house next door to us, the noise, the dust, the inability to record my podcast without sudden interruptions, power tools, digging in the ground, which here digging in the ground involves blasting because of the rock. Well, this morning I noticed that the porta potty has been removed. Now, for those of you in the construction industry, if you've built a house, if you've been around a construction site, you know when the porta potty disappears, it's over. And so I am hoping that holds true for here. To me, that's a sure sign that the construction is coming to an end. And another fact is I did see a whole load of appliances that had been delivered a couple of days ago that were sitting on the back porch. So that's another sign that things are coming to an end. Yay. So I might sneak little mini recordings in during the weeks on things so I don't forget to do them at the end of the week. That's what I used to do. Now I make copious notes. So by the time y'all hear this podcast, we will be back from a long weekend in Key West. A report will be at the top of the list for next week's episode. We're going to a stick figure concert. Goody. If you haven't heard stick figure, don't know who they are, tune them in. I first picked it up on the Kenny Chesney channel on Sirius Radio, and eventually Jimmy Buffett started to have it on the Margaritaville channel. But we just love them, and their videos on YouTube are awesome. So if you get a chance, pull up stick figure on YouTube and watch some of the videos. It's an outside venue, so it'll be pretty warm at showtime. I think it's going to begin at around 7, probably last till 11 o'clock. So, it's hot, whatever. It's normal. It's summer, by the way, in case nobody's noticed, at least down here. I just saw a post for some friends of mine that fish with me, a couple of gals that fish with me. They're up fishing. It was in Canada based on where the tag was, and they had on jackets and scarves and head wraps, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's absolutely amazing. Let's see. We'll be cruising, of course. We made some dinner plans at one of our favorite locations, and of course there'll be that, and I'll report on it. I'm not going to report on it now or even say it now in case something happens reservation-wise, but it's one of our favorite places, and we actually had our first lunch together there when we met years ago. We'll be cruising Duval, hanging out at the pool at the resort. We're doing the Opal in Old Town this time, the Opal Resort. It used to be the Margaritaville Resort, and we've been there for breakfast a couple of times. They had a great buffet in there. So I'm looking forward to it. Decided to stay there because it's so much closer to the concert venue at the amphitheater. And parking is always an issue in Key West. If you haven't been, you don't know. If you have been, you do know. So being closer to the action will save us parking fees and quite a bit of walking and hunting for spaces and all that kind of nonsense. So, and if the walking gets to you, or to me in this case, there's always the pedicabs. I like them. And Janelle and I used one last time we did a concert, and I'd kind of forgotten how much fun they are. They're slower, but they get you where you're going. I mean, just kick back and relax. And the nice thing is the drivers usually have a bunch of local knowledge for you as you're going down the road. And they also took us to a restaurant we'd never been before, so which I reported in a previous podcast. And it was fun and good. Weather-wise, I'm guessing by now that the news about Debbie the storm is getting very old. So I will touch on it only lightly. We had no issues whatsoever, just a bunch of small branches and a lot of leaves to clean up afterward. The wind continued to blow for days afterwards, and we even got a feeder band or two late, like after it had already crossed Florida and gone up toward the Carolinas, Georgia and the Carolinas. We actually got a big, long feeder band that came across us and blasted us for about 10, 15 minutes. I was like, where in the heck did that come from? I mean, literally out of the blue. The sun by that time had come out, and we got socked by that. That was kind of wild. Now it's just plain old hot, and the wind is finally letting down, which makes it hotter. Mosquito season's back. All we had to get was 2 or 3 days of rain, baby, and it's on like Donkey Kong. So, yeah, they've been spraying. I've heard the helicopters go over a couple times, and the trucks are in the street. They'll knock it down. I noticed yesterday I was out watering the plants and stuff in the backyard, and I already noticed I think I only got bit once, which is some sort of record for back there. But anyway, it's just plain old hot. We got another tropical blow headed toward us. It's one of those invest things. It looks like a long balloon that the guys blow up to make balloon animals out of. Yeah, check out the chart. I just call them the animal balloon. Late in the week, however, now this morning's spaghetti track, that. It says it's supposed to turn right at the Bahamas and head right on up, maybe, and stay in the Atlantic. If it doesn't get past the Bahamas, the Carolinas may be safe. I hope so, because they got enough rain. But anyway, so they're showing a pretty big turn in it, and I'm sure I'll have more to talk about that next podcast. Of course, by that time, it'll already be here or over. So I love predicting the future. It's tough. But I just hope it doesn't affect Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia again. They've had enough rain for now. And they were short rain. That was the funny part. They were like on the edge of a drought, and then this whole mess came and got them. So anyway, no fishing over the past week. That's obvious. Hope to get back to it sooner than later. Perhaps my return from Key West, maybe Wednesday or Thursday if the weather holds. Although I think Wednesday I might be back in the recording studio again. So got to check the calendar. But at the very least, I'm trying to get out by Thursday or Friday, end of the week after we get back. So I'm really starting to look forward to fall. Seriously, I kid you not. As a guide, you kind of dreaded the cold weather coming in, but that's when all the tourists showed up. That's when everybody came to go fishing. So you made do with what you had, and you went out on days when you did not want to go out. I can remember driving the little road down Lover's Key north. I came from the south end of it and coming up north toward Fishtail Marina. I can remember being out there and the wind's blowing sideways, and it had just finished raining, and I'm thinking this is never going to happen. And it's 48 to 55 degrees, somewhere in that range, hopefully warming to 60. And I went. And we went, because I would tell them, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, I don't want to. But they'd go, no. And, you have to understand, they came down for a week or 10 days, and they planned this trip for a long time. And they're not going to let a little weather get in the way, and especially if they're from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, the upper states where they're avoiding frost and snow up to their yin-yangs. They get to Florida, 55? Oh, hell, that's great. We'll probably put a light jacket on. I'm bundled up. So now I look forward to it. I really do, because I can go when I want to. So when it cools down, way down, and we do get a big cold front, I don't have to go out. But it's so nice to go out and fish the backwaters and not sweat and not be chased down by mosquitoes and deer flies. So I kind of look forward to it now. It's a long way off. It seems that way. You got August, September, and October to get through. Then by November, we start to get our first little blast of cool air from up north. So keeping the fingers crossed. Let's see. August the 6th was the start of the commercial recreational lobster season. Yay. That's what I got to say about that. We've already had a few. Matter of fact, I popped a couple on the grill the other night with put some butter pads on top. sprinkled a tiny little bit of Chef Paul's seafood magic. That's one I like to add to the lobster. Just don't put much on it. You don't want to cover it up. And then popped them on the grill, and they were tender and yummy. And then we had drawn butter to dip them in. And what you add to that is a nice glass of white wine or ice cold beer. Ice cold beer in a mug's not bad with lobster coming off the grill. So if you're going to come down and go fishing for them, diving for them, snorkeling for them, whatever it is you go after, you're going to need a fishing license and a tag, a special lobster tag to take lobster. I've read many, many arguments on Facebook, mostly Facebook, over the past week since the season started. And we're getting harassed by the people who do Maine lobster. And we keep hearing how much better Maine is than Caribbean lobster, Keys lobster, or Florida, whatever you want to refer to it. I got news for you people. I've had both, and you might want to try the Florida stuff. You just might want to try it. I think you'll be in for a big surprise. Don't speak about it unless you've had both. If you've had both, that's okay. We can argue it. But I just find the Florida much more tasty. It's sweeter. It's just better. That's all. I've had both. I like lobster from Maine lobster. It's fine. I just find it to be a little chewier, I guess is the way I would put it. That doesn't mean somebody overcooked it. I'm talking about the texture of the meat. So anyway, there, I just stuck up for the Florida lobster. Come on down and get you some. Remember this too, Monroe County, you can only get 6. So if you come down to the Keys, you're allowed 6 per person. If you bother the people in Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County on the lower East Coast, got plenty of lobster there offshore. It's 12 per person there. So if you really want to fill the cooler up and you want to take some home with you, freeze some and do that. By the way, lobster tails freeze really well. It's one of the few seafoods you can put in the freezer, and when you get it out literally months later, it's really A-okay to eat. So just a tip for you. But you get 12 up there and you only get 6 down here. So maybe you want to bother them. Leave us alone. Here's a tip about something I put in my new book. I wanted to get this out there because I was thinking about it the other day. If you're coming down to fishing down this way, honestly, you don't need a boat or a rental boat or a kayak. Why? Because there are plenty of bridges to fish from. We have an amazing amount of roadside fishing available. I don't call it beach fishing, and I did not put beach fishing in this book. I put it in the first book, in the book about Southwest Florida, because that's what we do there. I did fish off the beach, and the people there love going for snook off the beach. Down here, it's bridges, and it's under the bridges. It's the riprap lines, the rocks that are put under the bridges to keep them from eroding away during storms. You can stop almost anyone that's got a legit legal pull-off, somewhere you can take the car where it hadn't got a sign posted, and you can walk down under the bridge. Or you can fish the bridge. There's a whole bunch of bridges that you can fish heading south from here down to Key West. Fishing rod, monofilament braided line, a hook, 2/0 circle's perfect really for almost anything you get, and then a split shot or something for a little bit of weight. The harder the current, the more weight you want, so you have to be mindful that these are passes that the bridges are over. And I watched a guy bring up about an 8-pound mutton snapper from underneath one of them one afternoon. I mean, there's some big fish living under the bridges. It's the first thing I ever did. When I came to the Keys, the first fishing I did was under the bridges and off the bridges, and it's great fun. You never know what you're going to reel up, and I would highly recommend giving it a shot. A lot of variety too. But you can stop anywhere along those where it's okay. You'll see other people fishing there. You also get the conversation too. I think what's fascinating is you can see the fish. Look down off the bridge, you can actually see them around the pilings. Want to learn more? Well, I just happen to have this new book about fishing down here in the Keys, and there's an entire chapter about fishing on foot, which includes where and how. So there you go. Yes, that was a shameless plug. Let's see. The recent Saturday Red Tide report once again showed no hits from coastal Florida. Anywhere in Florida. More good news. It's great to report this. Hopefully it will continue even after all the nasty amount of water that pours out after a big hurricane like Debbie, a big rain event like Debbie. She was mostly tropical storm down in the west coast of Florida and then turned into a hurricane right before she ran ashore up in the Panhandle. But when you get that much water out of a storm, there's a lot of runoff, and runoff ain't good. So no matter, I mean, never talking about sewer runoff, all kinds of things. Just runoff in general is not good. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for all the people up that way, because red tide sucks. That's all there is to it. I am currently writing for a magazine called Coastal Angler Magazine. It is a free issue. If you're in the Keys, you can pick one up just about tackle shops, things like that. Restaurants. We've seen it a lot of places that we travel around Key Largo. That magazine contains a whole bunch of fishing captains doing stories. There are interest stories. Mine's fluff. It's just fluff. The guy says, you don't need to do fishing. We got enough. Just do what you did with the articles that you wrote for other magazines. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. No problem. So my article is called Catch You Outdoors, just like the podcast. And it's monthly. The August issue is out. By the way, you can get the Keys edition online. And remember, wherever you live in Florida, there is probably a Coastal Angler magazine available to you. And it's, full of really good local information about where to fish and what's being caught and the who's and how's and what's, that kind of thing. So check it out. Again, you can get it online at Coastal Angler. I think it's coastalanglermag.com. Don't trust me on that one. You might want to double check me. My book, I just mentioned, What I Know About Fishing the Florida Keys, is available at my website at catchyoutdoors.com. It's selling very well. If you want to get a signed copy, you better get on it. Because I'm not going to order more. It was just too expensive this time around to order the actual real life copies, and Amazon's already got it, and Amazon sells it. They sell it for the same price as I sell, although I add $5 for shipping. If you're a Prime member, you don't have to worry about paying for shipping with Amazon, but it's available through them, and you can get it that way. It ain't as pretty, and it won't be signed. I'm just giving another plug. I hope you enjoyed the music and bar, I guess I should have called it, the music and bar roundup in last week's podcast. I'm going to run that about every 2 or 3 weeks as I see things happening, or I see new music coming out, or if I see a band that's showing up that you all should definitely take a listen to. All the way between here and Key West. I'm not, no holds barred. I'm not going to just stick to the Key Largo area. I'm going to basically hit as much as I can going south. And I got some nice notes from last week. That's where the bar mention came. Somebody said, you should call it the musical bars. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of. That's where you go to listen to music here. So valid point. Anyway, I'm going to stretch that out. So probably won't be next week, but the week after. About every 3 weeks, I'll be featuring stuff like that for that segment. This past week, I did some studio time with Billy, and we're working on, get this, 3 more songs. The way this usually goes is I bring some newly written songs and old songs and my guitar, and I sit in the studio with him and I play rough renditions for him. Just basically sing what I got on paper. And if I get a smile, it's good, and if I don't, it's not good. Well, this time I had 5 songs and I got 3 big smiles, and I'm like, oh, cool. So there were 3 of them that he picked out. The working titles are The Light, Bayou Bay, and Alligator Church. And yeah, that last one really got him, and it's one I initially wrote back in 97 or 98. I really don't remember exactly. I never noted it on the actual original paper, but I'm sure it's about that time. He said that one ought to be the lead song on an album. So that really made me happy, because I worked hard on that song, and it's a fun song. It's a great fun song, and I'm glad he liked it. So I can't wait to share it with you all. So recording will start probably Wednesday after I return from Key West. I think we're going to meet up Wednesday and do some more rough cut stuff. So that's become my most fun hobby. Now that I finally got my, quote, last book published, I'm going to concentrate a lot more on songs. It's just poetry, people. A lot of big authors have poetry books. One of my favorite authors, James W. Hall, He writes great mystery novels, fantastic mystery novels about Florida and the Keys. Fly fishing is included. His characters are wonderful. He teaches writing. He did. I don't know if he still does up at the University of Miami. But, it's one of those things where he has believe it or not, a poetry book. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And I've gone and done some research. You'd be surprised how many of these writers have done some sort of poetry book along the way. So there you go, because that's all songs are, is poetry with music, pretty much. Wow, time's flying by. It is now time for useless information.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Tommy Lee Jones and Vice President Al Gore were freshman roommates at Harvard. Okay. Although he starred in many gangster films, James Cagney started his career as a chorus boy. That had to be interesting. As a child, Jodie Foster appeared in Coppertone commercials. And I mean as a child. She's a baby in diapers. Not the poster. Not the Coppertone poster. She actually appeared in commercials. I went and pulled one up just to see what it was all about. You gotta watch it. And let's see. Last but not least, Bruce Lee was so fast that his films actually had to be slowed down so audiences could see his moves. I don't doubt that for a minute. And there you go. Until next week. Before I go, I always do this, some final words. I didn't do this one week and someone said, could you add that? And again? I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you always do whatever works, right? So anyway, some final words before I go. I love Florida. We don't have mountains, which I love to see and climb, but we have beaches, pasture land, swamps, and some of the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets in this here good old United States of America. Take some time and come down and visit. Walking a beach, doing a little fishing, or just lying on a chase lounge by the pool is a good way to relax the mind. I highly recommend it. I'll talk to y'all next week. Thank you for tuning in, and if you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Facebook page is Catch Ya Outdoors. The website is catchaoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.